Do, and I'm going to give you a little bit of insights about what that is. Before I do that, I'll remind you we have a silent auction going on in the back area, and that will go on until 8 o'clock, so 1 hour and 10 minutes from now. So let's get those bids in. We've got some good bids in on the guitar. We need some good bids in on that ukulele. Again, that's a ukulele with 4 professional ukulele lessons along with it. You can wind up actually being a strummer by the time you're done. I should mention, I was asked to mention by a guy with the Parrot Heads, and again, thank you very much to the Parrot Heads for running our silent auction, but she asked me to mention that if you are a little challenged in terms of cash dinero, that not only do we have a Venmo sticker that we can have you attached to, but they worked out with Wayne Rader, the Pappy's Place owner, that we can take credit card for some of the auction items. If you want to put a credit card on the tab, Wayne will take the credit card and give us the cash, and we'll just cover the card fee. So we're still willing to do that. Again, cash is king, Venmo's right behind it, but credit cards are possible. So again, let me get real serious for a moment and tell you a little bit about what we're up to. Written myself a few notes here. First of all, I'm Mark Rowland, and I'm very pleased to see all of you here this evening. I have about a 40-year friendship with this piano-playing fool here, Mark Allred. Take a bow, Mark. There we go. He's holding up his finest there. He looks better when he holds her, he said. Well, he can keep thinking that all he wants. Okay. Anyway, I've had about a 40-year friendship with him. We had a band back in the day, back in the early 80s and so forth. He has been involved in some of the side effects of feeding the unsheltered and the unhoused and so forth. I myself have some background with that. We had a program providing casseroles through cross lines that a couple people here in the audience were also part of, and it was a very good success in its day. And we did some feeding on Commercial Street back in the day. Anyway, last fall, Mark Allred told me about a guy that he had been contributing some money to every month. That guy's name is Jack Pike, and that's our main guest of the evening here. And Jack, Mark told me he's just some kind of good old boy, crazy enough to be feeding the unsheltered on a shoestring. And by that I mean out of his pocket primarily, with those who were foolish enough to contribute to him. And much of it out of his own pocket, I'll emphasize again. So Mark Allred and I both have financial planning backgrounds, and I got on a campaign to get Jack set up and get him legitimate. Make a legitimate charity out of it with full tax-exempt purchasing privileges and the ability to give tax-deductible receipts. So anybody who makes a contribution, if you'd like a receipt, that you can apply that fully tax deductible on your 1040 return. Again, this is a 501c3 registered with the IRS and with the state. So anyway, the money is the king, of course. In-kind donations are welcome. Then I'll remind you again, if you donate food that you purchase and you pay tax, you're throwing away those tax dollars. Donate instead those dollars and let Jack decide what food he needs to buy with that. And we do not pay tax when we buy things for our program. Things that make this go are many a piece. But how about a big round of applause, first of all, for What Would Janice Do? That's our organization. Again, a 501c3 nonprofit focused on the feeding of and the dignity of our unsheltered friends. So Jack, come on up here, and I'm going to ask Jack a few questions just to get him going a little bit. He says he's not an orator, so I'm going to try to make up for that. But anyway, Jack, give us a little start by telling us a bit about who you are and your cooking history, experience, etc., and then I'll ask you a few more.
Yeah, my first job in food was Taco Bell. Actually, in high school, I didn't last there very long. It seems like they had too many Indians and not enough Chiefs, so left there, went to the Golden Mine, washed dishes there, went on to Western Sizzlin', where I was there probably about 4 years after high school, and went on to SRC and tried my hand at factory work for about 6 years, a third shift, and had enough of that. Or they had enough of me and let me go. So back to cooking, sizzling on the north side back then, and went to Hardy's Truck Parts for a while, detailed cars for a while. It seems like I always come back to food. I had enough of Hardy's Truck Parts too, and decided in like 2004 to walk out of there and go on my own as a handyman and lawn care, and helping my mom take care of rentals. And I think it came to a friend got involved with Good to Go Mobile, which operated out of United Way Methodist Church on Broadway and Mount Vernon, and I went in one day just to see what their operation was about, and they were making sandwiches, and they would take some out to Fairview across from the fairgrounds, and then they'd feed downtown at the Gathering Tree. And Denise said, I want you to be the face that people see every week and ride the trailer. Of course, I'd do food prep, but when we were handing out food, I would just stand there, and I was like, really, this is the face you want people to see? You know, this resting bitch face? But I realize now that, you know, people need to have trust in you, and they want to know you're there for them, and you're going to be there for them every week. So I wanted to do I wanted to do hot meals, and we did for a while, but the money wasn't really there. The woman had a special needs child and working like 3 jobs, so she ended up folding it up, and Marty Knauer invited me out to feed some meals at the vet center, and then I went and met Bob and Christy Love when they were on the corner of Commercial and National, and of course they were always busy, and I met them separately in there, and I didn't know who the director was, their husband and wife. I went in the winter. I thought, I've got a closet full of clothes. Anything I have is not that great. To me, clothes are a tool to cover your body. I don't care if they have holes in them, they have stains on them. They're a tool. So I gave them some stuff I had in coveralls, and it's like I can't hold on to all these coats thinking of people sleeping outside. And then I started talking to them about doing a barbecue there, which I felt like I'd be more comfortable in the church I was at, because I could feed 125 people easy enough, and I had 6 people going to volunteer with me that I'd worked for before. And COVID was just starting, and I thought I had a fever, and I'm like, oh, I can't go over there and make all these people sick. 3 of the people dropped out. It was easy for me to cook barbecue for that many and get it together, but then we were going to put it in the go boxes and transport it. So it took Marty Knauer's SUV like 2.5 trips to get it all over there. It started raining. So I felt bad because it's late, but everything I do is late. So fly by the seat of the pants. So then they were gifted a church and a foster center by the Disciples of Christ, I think, on West Chestnut. And so it was around July 4th. I just met Angie Ward. We started dating. I had a big trailer, mowing stuff. I don't like projects where I have to work with other people. I kind of do things my way, and I called Bob. I don't think he thought I was going to show up, and I called him and I said, hey, I'm here to clean up this, you know, it hadn't been mowed in a couple of years and overgrown, and I said, I'm going to do this. And he said, well, I'm on my their anniversary, and he said, I can't be there. And I said, that's fine, just tell me what you want cut. Limb saws, everything. I think I hauled like 4 16-foot trailers out of there. But luckily it'd rain on me a little bit, and then, you know, it'd get hot again. So then they were trying to buy a building at 3000 West Chestnut that used to be Frisco Flea Market. The building was trashed. All the fixtures for like booths and chicken wire were still in the front. We ripped all that off. I hauled scrap out of there in the day when Bob was at work, and then we'd get together and I cleaned all the brush up over there behind the building. It was spaced about this wide. I kept 2-handle trimming through it, and I'd hit steel, and it was a bicycle rack and basketball goals and I did some plumbing over there. I tried to help with wiring. We painted, and I was like, this thing is never gonna. The breaker box was like spaghetti factory. One side by side, the wires were running outside to the other one. We had to figure out which circuit was which. But anyway, they got it together, and they do a lot of good. And me and Angie went out on cold weather outreach, which was really destroyed both of us. We weren't ready for it, to see people with no blankets at all, sitting hiding behind a gas station on the concrete, and you try to give them something warm to, and some hot hands, and try to give them some kind of words of encouragement, knowing that you're going to go back home and sleep in a warm bed. So no matter what I do, I always feel like I could do more. So they kind of hinted like they were going to have hot meals there or kitchen, and the bottom line is they couldn't afford to do a grease trap and different stuff. I cleaned up all my old restaurant stuff and thought I was going to go in there, and just wasn't in the plan. So there was a camp being evicted that's under eviction right now, Lurby property in Old O'Reilly's. I moved some friends out of there in October of what year was that?
2020.
20?
2020, 2021.
2020, I think, in October. Moved 9 people. Decided with COVID and not much family around anymore that I could maybe fix some meals and take out to them. Of course, like I say, my holidays are lonely, so I'm going to go out here and feed it. Well, I'm feeding off the back of my pickup tailgate, and it's cold as hell, and the food is about cold, just getting it out. But so then I started doing some pizza nights. I was donating plasma and hauling some scrap to go and buy pizza, come and go, like dollar slice night, and then trying to cook some out for them on an old Coleman stove out there. Then tried to help more with shelters and some heat, propane. First year I spent a lot of money in propane. But it's hard to think that, again, that people are going to sit out there and freeze to death, So as it grew, I would go back to the camp they'd been evicted from at Lurby with some leftovers, and people were trickling in there, and then I just kept going a little bit further. So me and Angie were working out of my small kitchen at my house that had a single sink, and it got to growing pretty good, and got to be where we're feeding like 40 people. And then I kind of moved into her house in the winter, being closer to Sam's and driving her car that was front wheel drive when it was snowing and like minus 12. So this thing just kept growing. We're packing the bags for these lunch bags, and we would kind of bicker doing it. And, it got to be where it was just too much, and Janet Hicks was fixing our desserts, and it got up to where it was too much for her. And luckily, a friend that I'd run into that I hadn't seen in many years was out at a music event, and she is a teacher that works at Mercy with special needs kids. And another girl, Kim Westbrook, that I knew from Parkview, they said our students can pack these bags, and they write a special, like, positive message on it, put hearts on it, whatever they're, you are loved, you're important. So in those bags, we first started out with cutie oranges. Then it got to be where the bags were heavy enough. At that time they had an 8-ounce water in them, and we tried to do like chips, a cracker, and then I'd do a hot entree in an 8-ounce bowl separately. So it grew to where it was up to, I think at one time it was up to 3 days a week, and it was a couple of hundred meals. Then now I do this Friday night meal that I just got out of that I didn't really like, but was doing like 300 there. I was getting some hospital food, and I couldn't store it all because I didn't have a big cooler or enough freezer space. So I'd feel bad to throw it away. So I'd go out, and I'd be out there sometimes till midnight. I'd already fed my meal, but then I didn't want to throw this food out, so I'd go out. So it's gotten to be where it kind of, I wasn't eating real bad, but then I'd get out so many hours, and I started eating monster burgers and fries, and ended up with diabetes. And so I've got to kind of get back to eating snacks and not going 12 hours without eating a meal, so.
Now, the man said he's not much of an orator, but I think you got that spelled out pretty well. But along the lines of what he was telling us, a lot of that was a good history here. I want you to share with us, Jack, when did you really start doing this? You kind of mentioned on that. And in particular, how often you get out there currently. Are we not feeding about 800 people a month now? Isn't that correct? And without revealing the exact location of the camps, because that's kind of sensitive these days, can you tell us what parts of the area get most of your feeding attention? I understand there are numerous feeding programs downtown, and so our focus is north side. Tell us a little about that.
Okay, well, the camp was pretty close to Kearney and 65, and my girlfriend lives out towards 65 and more towards Sunshine, so I got to where I'd start 65 in Kearney. I like to stop at Come and Go and get my bad addiction of black tea that's caused me a lot of troubles too. But then I would work my way down through the on and off ramps there and go through some camps, working on down to like the Lurvy camp that's been evicted, hitting Glenstone and going north again, go across the highway and like turn around by Waffle House and come back, get anybody that's flying out that way or hanging out at the gas stations, which now they're getting pretty stiff again on people flying signs or hanging out, which I think is sad that they want to close down the bathrooms and don't want these people out there when they spend their checks on cigarettes or whatever they need, you know, in there, but then when they're in between a check or something, they're not worthy. So there again, I go down Kearney and I find different camps going down it and make it down to Kansas. Go across the highway there again, try to get flyers and go through Walmart and check some camps. Of course, I always get people walking. If I see them, they're looking bad or they got a pack on, I try to stop and introduce myself and say I'm out on this side of town a couple of days a week. I have changed the days around several times. I like to frequent open mic at Joe's Gathering Place, so I started in Tuesdays and I've been, I used to do Wednesdays, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. They said there was no meals on Saturday really, so I did that for a while. So recently I've been on Tuesday and Thursday, and I had to add another day because I was doing the meal at Pitts Chapel. But Pitts Chapel, with people being downtown, you could eat at Sally's Vets, and these people circle all those, and which is great. I mean, they got a drop-in shelter, but where I'm at, either people are mentally ill maybe, or they don't have the means to make it in, or they're not getting by a good bus line, or you know, and literally when people come out to my vehicle to get fed, they have to leave somebody at their camp, because in that matter of minutes, somebody might take their stuff, which sadly they're all in the same boat, but it happens a lot. So if I had food, I would come downtown to some people and try to find people at camps, depending on what hours it is, you know, whether they're at the vets or not.
So in general, the north side is the focus. The place is most important. The criterion by which Jack judges that is the least served. So he's getting it out there to those who are getting it the least. And again, our promotion of getting people fed, but also preserving their dignity is the main goal here. And with that, let me segue into how we got around to this name. When we were getting this going, he'd been doing it. He didn't care about a name. He didn't care about any fame. He just cared about getting people who were unhoused some meals, get some food in their belly. Again, emphasis on hot food. But we asked him what we should name this organization as we get it going and get it formalized and so forth. And so his mother, who was I call her an over-the-top social worker. She was a go-beyond kind of a person who did a lot of things she probably wasn't supposed to do, that the state might not have liked her doing, but getting out there and getting overdone for people who didn't get enough. And he's trying to do it in that same spirit. So tell us a little bit, just real briefly, about Janice, your mother, and how that's appropriate that we name this What Would Janice Do?
Yeah, my mother, oh boy, where would I start? My mom was bringing me in here to Pappy's, I guess, when she was pregnant with me. We had a long history here. She'd worked for reproductive health when we were younger. Her and my aunt traded back and forth for working for DFS. She went back and got her master's degree, and she ran the Springfield Children's Home for many years, which kind of as a kid, you're wanting attention, you got divorced parents, and your mom works all the time. That's why I started cooking. They thought my mom was a cook. She's not a cook. My mom was a powerful woman, and I'm glad she wasn't a cook. She had a couple of dishes that she made really well, and that's why I learned.
So we're trying to do what would Janice do, because that's what Janice would have done. On a shoestring budget, he's done all kinds of things. He's stooped over in a traditional van trying to shag stuff in and out and so forth. And so we got donated a step van, kind of a bread truck looking thing. It's a little on the ancient side, and it's had a rough life, but what is it, a 95 model? 1995 model. Used to be owned by DeLong's Plumbing in the day, but it's a little bit let go, but we're going to try to work it up. So some of what we're doing this fundraiser for is we're trying to get that step van going so that this man doesn't have to stoop over to be out there helping feed all these unhoused, unfed folks.
And the packaging.
And the packaging of things in the very beginning. But again, what I'm asking you is to donate to this good cause and help this man get to stand up as he's packaging and feeding people. We're going to cut a hole in the side of that step van and get it to be like a real live upscale food truck. So to wrap up then, again, we should all express appreciation for the kind of person that Jack's trying to be out here doing what all of us ought to be doing, taking care of our fellow man. In whatever way we can help him, which is primarily financially. Again, we've got things organized now where we can have things run a little more smoothly. The goal is that this guy just packages and feeds and doesn't have to worry about the small stuff. We're trying to sweat the small stuff for him. So help us with that. Lastly, I do want to mention our 50-50 raffle. Di, what are we up to now on the 50-50 raffle? $310 are now in that bucket.
Yeah.
And what that means is there's $155 in there going to What Would Janice Do, and $155 in there that's going to go in somebody's pocket, whoever bought that winning ticket, yet to be decided.
Or back to Jack. There's a couple that are going to donate it right back to Jack.
Yeah, and I've heard that from several people have said if they win, they're going to donate it right back to What Would Janice Do. So, but they absolutely do not have to. No pressure whatsoever. You bet. So, at that, how are we? How close are we to the next music here, Mark?
We're close. We're gonna showcase this guitar.
Yeah. So among the auction.